Well, Mark, a couple of months back, you'd won a game, then you had Fleetwood away. You played really well, but it didn't work out. You didn't get your 2 wins from 2. Don't suppose you really care what happens this weekend, as long as you have your 2 wins from 2 come 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, that's got to be the aim, isn't it? We know we're going to need back-to-back results along the way a couple of times yet, because of the number of games that we're going to need to win. So it's certainly a game that we want to go and follow up from last week's excellent result and performance from. When we went up to Fleetwood, actually, I thought we played really, really well. We were very, very hard done by to lose so late on, and then had a chance to equalise after that as well. But it was certainly one of them nights in a batch of games where we felt we were not gaining the points that we deserved. So we've got to try, knowing what we know from that game, to go and deliver a really similar performance, similar level, and give ourselves the best chance of getting the result. Now, like you say, the result really is the most important thing in the remaining 8 games. So we'll take them however they come. But what we've done last week is breathe some confidence and life into everyone. I think there'll be a brilliant atmosphere at the stadium tomorrow, and it's a game to really go and embrace and to try to follow up, a different way and a different game and a different style and different opposition. But we've got to try and find the same levels of lots of parts of our game, and most importantly, be really clinical in the moments that we get, which we were certainly in the second half at Port Vale. So looking forward to that challenge and seeing if we can continue our challenge of taking this to the last week.
I guess it's inevitable at this stage that you keep an eye on what's going on with the teams around you as well. Both MK Dons, Oxford got tough home games, so an opportunity to really double down. If you can do your bit, it may well be you get a bit of help from elsewhere.
Yeah, I think this time of season you are absolutely aware of the other results, and certainly post-match, probably more than any other time in the year, you are acutely aware of the other results and you're searching for them to see what the situation is at the end of play. I don't think that happens so much going into the games because, as you know, through the season, teams can win, lose, draw anywhere and random results happen. I think we're at the stage of the season now with 8 games to go where there's a lot of teams under pressure to perform, whether it's to get above one of the lines in the table or break away from trouble or anything else, or keep on the coattails of the playoff teams. There's so many teams still fighting for something, and that creates pressure on everybody, which can create really random results in the remaining weeks of the season. And then you get a small batch of teams maybe that aren't really playing for so much, and it's fairly human instinct to just not quite have the same intensity and focus on those games. So whether or not that happens and throws up a few random results, I think we saw a few random ones last weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more over the coming weeks. And the league table won't necessarily dictate whether you will or won't get results. I think it's just about trying to find a level of consistency in our performance and concentrate on us, really. And every time we get a result, it's much easier to concentrate on us. So that's what we have to try to do this weekend, and then we're going to have to follow that up quite quickly because we've got sort of Friday, Monday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday now in the next couple of weeks, so it's a busy period for us.
Clearly the dream scenario would be to be outside the relegation zone come Monday evening, but if you can get back to within a single win, would that be a good return for the weekend?
Yeah, I don't really know. How good a weekend is going to be dictated, of course, by your own results, but also the other results will impact things massively. So people talk now about what's the target, how many wins do you need? You can go off of previous data and previous seasons to have an idea of the points total that's needed. But now it will really depend on how everybody else does in those games. So it's really hard to judge that. So you probably just play it game at a time, and we've got to try and close the gap first of all and keep in touch with those teams. So for us, we want to try and win both games if we can this weekend. We know that's a tough task. We know we haven't done that very often, but that's what we've got to try to set out to do because it's going to be wins that we need to keep us in the division. So the biggest challenge I've set the boys all along is try to take it to the final week, try to be in it in the final week because it would be easy to be cut away from that. Last weekend's was a must-win in order to stay in touch with it. This weekend's a really important game for us to try and add to the points total, and we have to continually do that over the coming weeks. Obviously, a couple of home games in there, a few games against teams fighting at the other end of the table. So I think it's going to be a really interesting period. But what we've got to see is the same commitment and intensity in our game to understand our situation and to not only understand that and reflect it in the way in which we play physically and the commitment we give the game, but to make sure we have enough freedom in our game as well that we play and we remember to play with that little bit almost relaxation and calmness and composure. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for us to find the quality that we need. So we've got to get that balance right in our game, and that's the challenge for us tomorrow.
Do you think Fleetwood will pose much the same challenge from a couple of months ago, even though it's home rather than away? Because they're quite fluid. They change shape, they've changed personnel.
They have, yeah. They've changed the game quite a bit. Obviously, they played a back three when we went there, and as did we. And so we've got some really good learnings from that game as to how we can compete, control, contain them, and also counter them and cause them some problems. So that will be a really interesting match-up to see how we go about that, and if we can do better than we did last time, certainly in the finishing phase of the game. But they've got some good players. They're in a decent enough moment with the results that they're getting and the position that they're in, that they can play with the handbrake off a little bit. They signed well in January, certainly in the forward areas, and have got some real experience at that and quality at the top end of the pitch. And it will give us a good test. Their away form's been good, away record's been very good. So it's a game that we know we've got to be right at it for. But there's no excuses for us not to be now. We know where we are, and the pressure's on us in the end to set the intent in the game and to keep delivering results. And the one thing I like is I thought we had a little break going into the Port Vale game. That was good for us. We got the result and the performance right in that game, and it's given everybody a small lift, which is important. But it's only important if we can build on it.
Have you managed to contain the illness going into this one? Have you managed to get the players back and stop it spreading any further? Yeah, we have. Yeah, all those that were ill are sort of back in training this week and have settled down quite well actually. So they're fully fit and going into the weekend. So we're pretty much as we were last weekend. Fajiri's had a little bit extra training, which is good. So he's getting closer. George Thomas, Liam O'Neill working really well with Lawrence and Ryan, so they're getting closer too. And then we've just got to check in really today on how Shiloh is after coming off at the weekend, and George Williams also having not been able to be available really from the bench last weekend. So those two haven't trained yet this week, so we're just waiting to see how they are today and whether they'll be able to play a part tomorrow. With Dimmy and Will Mannion, is it a case of if Dimmy is fit and ready to go, the understanding is he's number one, he comes straight back in at this stage? Or do you see it now as being more of a fight in that Will obviously made a tremendous key save in the game last weekend that then set up the win?
No, he did. He's done well in his periods in the game. Obviously early in the season when Dimmy had his longer term injury, Will came in and did ever so well. So certainly in the early part of his time in golf, he played well, and I think that's quite often the role of that number two goalkeeper. You can then have periods where you're out for a long time, and it wasn't until the day before the Port Vale game that it became obvious that he was going to be playing. So you train all the time for those moments so that when it comes you're ready to go, and he certainly made a real key impact on the game with the save that he made, and the timing of it that we scored straight afterwards was a match winning moment. So terrific from him. Dimmy's back in full training this week, so I think it's always a competition between the two. Who I pick at the moment I won't sort of make clear to you, but you'll soon find out.
Cool, that's great for me.
Mark, just on the issues of, we've talked about mental health over quite a long period of time within the club. Coming to the end of the season, the pressure obviously almost irrelevant of where you are. You're either being pressured to win the league, stay up, or finish in a respectable position. Is it difficult for you to find the time to relax as you go through these last couple of weeks of the season?
I don't know if it is really. I think you try to separate the work from time away, and you just try and find pockets of time where you can relax and switch off from things. It's rare really in this job. You play all the time. You accept when you sign up to this sort of career, and players the same and staff the same. It's 9 months of life revolves around the fixture list and the games programme, and if you can fit anything else in, great. But it is what it is. You can't complain about that. I think it's just anyone who does anything in public life has a little bit more scrutiny on them than others, and when you play in a competition and you play professional sport, you quite often judge yourself, and certainly other people judge you by the results and the league table and the statistics, and it's just a constant sort of hamster wheel really. You're on the wheel of that. Sometimes it can feel like you're in a washing machine because you're just going round and round and round, and it's difficult, but you soon learn to put that to bed and be able to sleep and get ready for the next game. And it's not something that I particularly struggled with, but at the same time, that it would be wrong to say that you're not affected by bad results, bad times, or stressful workload. I think everybody has an element of that. But at the same time, it's just part of the territory, and it's certainly not something that we can hide behind or shy away from, because everybody that does this job or everybody that plays in this industry has exactly the same challenge, and it's learning to manage that rather than moan about that, because that is life, and at difficult times, tough challenges, showing resilience, can't always win. You've got to do the right thing and behave in the right ways and do things properly and work hard, because that's your only chance of coming through these periods. So I think we've got the idea of how to go about turning things around and dealing and coping with these. And certainly my experience this year has given me more experience of those situations that we haven't had in the previous probably 2.5 years. And so it's been a learning experience in that sense as well, to cope with that a little bit better. But we're doing all right at the moment, and I think we've got a real optimism about us in the weeks ahead.
And you talk about the atmosphere that could be there on Friday. Obviously, a massively different journey home for fans as well as the players in terms of having that win under the belt. That will obviously make a huge difference to the players to get them G'd up.
I hope so, yeah. We've had some good interaction with people actually. As we were coming back from Port Vale, I don't know where we were, Leicester Services or something, we stopped and the supporters bus was there, so that was quite funny. It's always a bit weird when you get off the bus and people start singing names at you when you're in the middle of a car park. There was also about 6 other teams of football fans there that were giving us stick, so it was a strange experience for that 10-minute stop. But I think people were delighted with the result, the performance. It's been tough for supporters as well, because you pay and work hard and to come and watch the games. Our support's been amazing this season, numbers and just the goodwill towards the team and towards us as staff. So we've been really pleased with that. And certainly it goes into this weekend of an exciting week. We had the Junior Youth Day on Monday at the stadium, where the lads met all the young fans that came to watch the training session and met them after the game. So it's nice, just a good buzz around the place, and it just reminds you that there is a real good connection between the team and the supporters, and that we're growing all the time, even in difficult moments. We're growing as a club, which is really important that we continue that momentum, even when it's tough for us on the pitch. So I'm looking forward to seeing good numbers. It usually is on a bank holiday weekend. I think the weather's due to be quite good, and hopefully there's a real big support behind the team, because that's certainly what we're going to need, and our home games are going to be massive for us between now and the end of the season.
Cheers.
Mark, just on the injury front, is George Williams okay after pulling up in the warm-up on Saturday?
We'll find out today, mate. We'll see whether he trains. He hasn't trained yet, so him and Shiloh, we've both got to check on today.
And with the likes of Liam O'Neill, George Thomas, Fajiri as well, is it fair to say, although they're getting closer, they won't be available to feature in either of the Easter weekend games?
Yeah, most likely. Liam and George certainly haven't trained with the group at all yet. Fajiri is closer. So we'll just wait and see how he goes over the weekend. In the busiest spells now, when we have so many games and you're just coming back and wanting to join training sessions, and there isn't so many, that makes it a bit more difficult for players. But Faye's been training for a bit of time now, so that's been good for him. And at some point we'll see him return, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
And just on the relegation battle, obviously you won on Saturday, but you're still 5 points adrift of safety. How tough a task is it going to be to claw back that difference and stay up this season?
Well, I think it will depend on how the other teams do as to how many points it is. It's still a gap at the moment, and it's a long shot. If you look at the odds, it will be a long shot, but we're not dead yet. I think we see that last weekend, and there's certainly plenty of fight in the team that we need to keep showing. And we're going to need back-to-back results along the way. We're going to need a good number of wins. We're going to need to do what we did in the first 10 games of the season, in the last 10, something similar. So that's what it is. So yeah, it'll be really difficult, but there's a chance. So while there's a chance, we've got to try and take it to the last week and fight like anything to try and stay in it, because it's certainly something that we're really aspiring to try and become, is a sustainable, strong League One football club. That's what we want to be. And obviously we've got to try and stay in the league this year to keep on going with that sort of journey.
Thanks, Mark.
Just one from me, Mark, probably a boring tactical question, but James Brophy played on the right-hand side at Port Vale, which I don't think he's done too often. this season, and obviously it seemed like it worked with Sam's first goal where he's cut inside and crossed it. How pleased were you with that, and is that something you might do with James going forward a bit more?
It is, yeah. We've certainly done. We've played with right footers on the left hand side fairly often, but we wanted to play in that game with left footer on the right and the other side as well. It was a really wide pitch, so we knew when we switched the game we'd be able to get loads of space inside for him to dribble inside and find his moments from there. It would also allow Liam Bennett to get outside of James on a really wide pitch. So that worked well for us, and he's a good dribbler, Bros, and looked comfortable in that situation. So it's certainly something that we'll be able to play again. I mean, I imagine over the coming weeks we'll flip between playing a back four in our normal way, playing a back four in the way that we played at the weekend, playing a back three, and therefore Bros becomes a bit more of a standard wing back on the left hand side. So we've got some good options there, and I think we'll see a little bit of all of it between now and the end of the season.